A lot of people want to eventually go on their own, but they're going home and not utilizing their 5 to 9 p.m. hours.
Yeah.
They're playing video games, they're watching webinars, and they're not making income producing activity.
Yeah.
You have to be meticulous with your time, because your time, every minute of your time is valuable, and top producers protect their time. You're not wasting your time watching nonsense. It has to be income generating if you're going to try to work yourself out of a job.
Welcome back to the Level 10 Podcast Studio. We're here in Nashville, Tennessee. I got a special guest for you today, and we're getting ready for a big event, and I have Joanna Wyckoff. Did I say that correctly? In the house?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I know you got a big weekend. You got a lot of your team members here, and we're excited to have you in the Top Flight team in the house. Thank you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. It's a great cold morning here in Nashville.
Very cold. Very, very cold. Yeah, when did you get in?
We got in yesterday morning. I had some business meetings and everything and just wanted to relax before we had the busy weekend ahead.
Yeah, I feel like you're making the most out of this weekend, which is awesome. You've rented out a massive mansion here, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the mansion deal. Where did you come up with that?
So one of the conferences a couple years ago, a couple of my crew and I had an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I just saw so much collaboration in the evenings and stuff. And, they would be sitting at the dining room table talking. And, I saw Zach teaching annuities and stuff to Steve. And I really wanted them, because my agents are across the country.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they don't get that face-to-face, camaraderie.
Right.
And I wanted to build the camaraderie between them, and also, I want Amber to teach Steve some automations, and I want them to cross-learn, And I felt like the best way to cross-learn, I get the most when I'm sitting next to someone at dinner.
For sure, yeah. That's why I love the face-to-face podcast. A lot of virtual podcasts, I love face-to-face. I feel like you get the most out of it.
I was like, let's get an Airbnb. And so originally it was just a couple of my folks coming in, and then I convinced more of them to come in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to buy everybody's ticket. You buy your flight.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the house, the tickets and everything for the seminar. And I'm actually taking them out to a really cool event tomorrow night too.
Can you divulge? They won't say it by then. What are you doing?
Oh yeah. So all right. So one of my agents is in the sports industry, former sports industry. He's like, hey, we should go to the Nashville Predators game.
We were thinking about doing that. Yeah.
All right. I'm doing it.
They're playing the New Jersey Devils, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know anything about hockey.
In Nashville, hockey game is so much fun. When they score, you're going to hear Tim McGraw singing "I Like It, I Love It." So be ready for that.
All right.
Okay?
So I got all-inclusive tickets for them.
Lexus Lounge?
I guess so.
Yeah,
it's
that's really
food,
fun.
beer, wine.
You can't beat that experience.
Okay, and then Zach was like, we should make jerseys. So I have customized jerseys
Holy
made
smokes.
with the Top Flight logo, and then I have their names and numbers on the back of the jersey.
That is so cool. I mean, that is big time, and I believe so much in that. Our team, we brought them down here. We spent thousands of dollars on them. I cannot imagine how much it costs to do custom jerseys and tickets. I mean, that's not cheap. So that's so cool, though, because stuff like that, I think, is irreplaceable. That's what just elevates your culture, and people want to be a part of it.
I wanted to show them my appreciation for their hard work, and build the culture and the team environment, but really just give them a good time, because I don't get to see a lot of them often,
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to do something. When we go to other conferences, a lot of times I just take them out to dinner.
Yeah.
You don't remember the dinner.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Last June, I was in Savannah, and about 40 of them were with me, and I chartered a Dolphin Sunset Cruise.
Cool.
They remembered that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They don't remember the dozens of dinners we went to,
Yeah.
but they remembered the Dolphin Sunset Cruise.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to build, the memories,
Yeah. No, I'm with you 100%. And that's when I put on an event, we're going to have in a couple of days, for me, it's the experience.
Yeah.
I use this example all the time. You think of your favorite concert. And this wasn't my favorite concert, but I went to Taylor Swift with my wife.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I like a couple songs, but the experience was insane. I will never forget that concert. Mm-hmm. And it's just 75,000 people crying next to me. It's she knew how to entertain 75,000 people. And it's just
amazing.
so crazy. But an experience like that, like you said, you're going to have a custom jersey that's going to go home with them. Every time they look at that, they're going to think about this trip. They're going to think about you. They're going to think about that weekend. Yeah. So I think that's so cool. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because I like to back up and get to know you and your journey before. Obviously, we're both in insurance, and a lot of people are watching this that are in the insurance industry. But in my opinion, your past has so much to do with your future.
Yes.
It creates you. It's ultimately who your best qualified to lead, in my opinion. So I want to dig into Joanna's past a little bit. Okay? If that's all right with you.
That's all right.
Okay. So you're in Houston now.
Yes.
Where are you from? Where did you grow up? Like, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
So I grew up in a very tiny, tiny hamlet, not even a town.
Hamlin, what state's that in?
Upstate New York.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of Woodstock, New York?
I've heard of Woodstock. Is that, like
Woodstock.
the music thing?
Yeah. So I grew up in a tiny little place about 20 minutes west of that.
Okay.
Doesn't even have a stoplight.
Yeah.
It's a tiny little ski village. And like,
ski villages in New York? I did not know that. Okay.
So I grew up in the Catskill Mountains. So the Catskills is south of the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
So it's about 2.5 hours above the city. So a lot of people from the city come up to ski.
Okay. How many people are in that town?
Maybe 100.
Wow. Okay. When we talk about small, that is small.
Yeah. Well, there's a bigger town about 20 minutes west of there that has a school and the grocery store and everything.
Okay.
You know? So I grew up there, and I went to a private church school. Yep. My dad was like an associate pastor and a mechanic and everything, you know. And then I left to go to college at UAlbany when I was 18.
Okay. So you really spent your child up to 18 in the New York area? Okay. And then what happened after college then?
So I was a junior in college.
Yep.
I went from the
What did you go to college for?
Pre-med.
Pre-med, okay. What drove you to that?
So I actually finished high school at 15.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, Joanna's so smart, she should be a doctor.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I had no outside influence. We didn't even, my dad took the TV out when I was a kid. Like, I had no influence, you know? I'm like, I guess I should be a doctor, you know?
Well, yeah, let's get into your, like, childhood growing up. No TV, so, like, what do you remember from your childhood and stuff like that?
We played out, remember, we played outside.
Yeah, right. The cell phones were not in front of your face 24/7.
So, like, we built, like, snow tunnels because it was snow. We hiked, and I read a lot of books. So, like,
were you like tough coming up? What do you feel like?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, just a regular country kid, you know.
Yeah, because I don't know you much at all, but you seem kind of tough. Would you say yes or no?
I mean, I guess that people get that because I was in the military afterwards.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a really girly girl.
Yeah.
So college, I was a junior and I got an F in chemistry.
Yeah.
And I was working full time. In my defense, I was working full time at Walmart in the photo lab and also going to college at the same time. And back then, they didn't make classes for adult students.
Yeah.
So you had like an 8 o'clock class, an 11 o'clock class, a 4 o'clock class. You know, it was hard.
Yeah.
But I didn't. My family was like upper class poor.
Yeah.
You know, like so they couldn't help me. So I had to work to pay my bills and everything. So I got the F, and I was like, they're not going to let me into med school, and they were like getting ready to put me on like academic probation for it. I was like, I don't want to stay here, and I was a fish out of water because I came from a tiny little town where everybody knew everybody to this massive city school.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of hard to fit in, and I didn't really know. And so what happened was I saw this TV commercial for the Navy, and it was for a combat photographer.
Yeah.
I was like, I could do that, right? So I take the online.
For a photographer.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the Navy.
Yeah.
And so I walk into the Navy's office, and they're like, oh, that's nice, honey. But they walk me next to the Air Force. And the Air Force is like, so you scored high on everything. What job do you want? I'm like, I don't know, you know. And so I started taking tests, and I took the defense language test. It's all gibberish, and I missed that by a couple points. And he's like, you can have any job you want. What do you want to do? And I was like, again, lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And, like, Google was only a couple years old at this time. Like, this is 2002. I'm sorry, 2002, early 2003. Like, Google was only, like, 3-4 years old. So there's really not a whole lot on the internet back then, right? I'm dating myself here.
No, that's all right.
And I had no mentor. Like, I just knew I needed to get the heck out of Dodge, you know? And
you were in Albany at this time.
I was in Albany.
Okay.
So I was in Albany, and then I left school while I was figuring this out and went back to my little town. Lived at my dad's house. He gave me a 9 o'clock curfew. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to be.
How old were you then?
I was 20.
20, okay. With a 9 o'clock curfew. Yep. Dad's rules.
And there's nothing, and that's fine. There was nothing to do though, and
Yeah.
I was working for my friend that owned a little motel down the street cleaning rooms.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I didn't want that to be my life,
Yeah.
And so the Air Force called me, my recruiter called me. He's like, I have a job leaving in 2 weeks for Open Electronics. You want to go? I said, put me on the plane.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's Open Electronics?
I'll figure it out when I get there, right?
Figure it out when I get there. So I'm in basic training, and basic training whoops my ass because.
No, it's all right. You can cuss all you want. There's been much worse words said here. Do not worry.
They say that you have to run 2 miles, but they didn't say it in 100-degree weather in Texas, know?
So that's where you moved down to Texas.
So basic training is in San Antonio, Texas, in the hot summer where it is 100 degrees.
And real quick there, so you made a just decision. It doesn't sound like you thought much about it.
I didn't think much about it.
What just causes you to take action like that? Or what do you think causes people to take action like that?
So I have a saying, my dad said, the pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of change.
Yep.
I had an immediate need, so I don't know if you want to talk about sensitive subjects.
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while I was in college, I went through something traumatic.
Yeah.
I had been sexually assaulted as a child by a family friend, and that came to light, and we went to court and everything. And in this little town of 100 people, my assailant had flipped the script and victim shamed and said that little 6-year-old Joanna was the cause of the problem. And people who I had babysat for free for my entire childhood were now not talking to me. I was like isolated,
Yeah.
And it hurt my family. My dad built that church, and now people who he mentored for 20 years didn't want to talk to our family,
Right.
And so I didn't want to stay there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stay there. I had no friends left there. People really showed their true colors when they don't have a need for you anymore, right?
That's so true.
And I was like, I'll go anywhere because anywhere is better than here.
Right.
Right.
So it was a fresh start more than anything.
Right. So I had a backpack. I really didn't know what to expect, but I said anywhere must be better than here.
Yeah.
And I just got on the plane and left.
Yeah.
And I make a lot of decisions like that, but I think that was the Air Force was the best thing for me.
Yeah.
It really defined who I became, and it really showed me that a little girl from the upstate New York could become anything, even a freaking jet mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that, first of all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you moved down to Texas. And then you're in the Air Force. What's that like? I was always intrigued by the military.
Yeah.
Never went to the military. I just think you have this image in your head, right? I think when you get there, it's like, sir, yes, sir. Drop and give me 100. What's it like?
As hard as that, but we did have to drop and do flutter kicks a lot whenever somebody messed up.
I did that in football. The legs. Yeah.
I had rock hard abs after I left there. So it was very militant. The Air Force is a little easier than the Marines and stuff that you see on TV. I had the extended version because I was with a group of girls that got in trouble, so I got in trouble with them. That happens a lot in sports and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you are who you surround yourself with. So there was a bunch of women, and I don't know anything about this. I apologize. So what was your group called, or do you have a set were you surrounded with women in your platoon? Is that what I call it? I'm sorry.
Female units.
Okay.
And then they had male units across that our brother unit and sister unit they would call in basic training.
Okay.
And so we would get up at 4:00 in the morning and go do our run for an hour.
Yeah.
And that was a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then
were you pretty disciplined before this?
Not at all.
So this is this is probably a huge part of your life in terms of shaping your discipline and all these things.
We grew up working. I had worked since I was 12,
Yeah.
But the discipline factor, we had a lot of structure growing up, but nothing defined, you know? So I was in basic training week 4, and they were like, you're going to work on F-16s. I'm like, what's an F-16?
Yeah.
Literally. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
And how, you're going to work on F-16s. How long were you into the Air Force by this point?
4 weeks.
4 weeks, and they're like, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you finished basic training. So I was in basic training for 10 weeks,
Yeah.
not 6.5.
Yeah.
And then they send you to tech schools.
Okay.
So then I go to Biloxi, Mississippi for my
Okay.
first tech school, which was electronics.
Gotcha.
And
is everything paid for at this point? Okay.
Yeah. So you're on their clock. You have to do everything they say. So in tech school, they have phases where the first phase you couldn't be out of uniform outside of your dorm room. You know, the second phase is you can go off base in uniform. The third phase, you can go overnight out, you know. So they do it in phases. It kind of a little bit equates to like prison, you know, like someone's controlling you. But so I did electronics in Biloxi for like 8 weeks, I want to say.
Okay, so 4 weeks, you're out of Texas, Biloxi, 8 weeks.
Well, so 6.5 weeks is basic training. I was there for 10.
Yeah.
Right? And then I spent a couple months in Biloxi. I want to say it was like 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I go to aviation school in Sheppard Air Force Base, Texas.
Did you like all this moving around at that point?
It was fine with me.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was fine.
So you get back to, where are you going in Texas now? Third stop?
North of Dallas.
Okay.
It's Sheppard Air Force Base.
Gotcha.
It's like Tumbleweed City.
Yeah.
You know? And that I was there for the longest. I think I was there for 6 months to learn avionics.
Okay. And then what happens after that?
Then
Or like what does that even mean?
So we just trained on how to repair aircraft.
Okay.
And
so by the time you're done there, so you're literally like an aircraft. What do you think all this crazy air stuff going on right now?
So there's a lot that you can't fire like the entire FAA.
Yeah.
And then not have a checks and balance. You know, I think that there's a lot of I think there's not a lot of maintenance being done, and there's no checks and balances being done. Like when I worked on aircraft, somebody had to come behind me and make sure that I didn't have any loose screws, that all my tools were away, you know, and I don't think that that's being done.
Yeah. Are you nervous flying right now?
No. I do fly a lot. Like I flew twice this week, you know.
Yeah.
I did have one of my agents change their flights from the Big D to something else because they were like, I'm not flying Delta.
No kidding?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, sorry to get you off topic there. So 6 months, you become basically an aircraft mechanic, right?
That's an apprentice,
yeah, that's crazy. So what happens after that then?
So I got my orders to go to Germany. So
so you go out of the country now. Gotcha.
I wanted to get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be in the military, I'm going to do it big, right?
Yeah. What was your favorite stop out of those first three?
Biloxi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that?
I liked the vibe. It was on the coast.
Yeah.
So, like, we were right on the water.
Yeah.
Like a mile from the beach, you know? Now, it wasn't a swimmable beach back then. And I really didn't have time to go many places, but I liked the vibe better.
Yeah. Cool spot. Okay. So then you're heading off to Germany.
Yep.
The big trip.
Yep. So I was in Germany for 2 years. Now, that was quite an interesting...
How old are you at this point?
I turned 21 right before I got to Germany.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I was one of the only few that could drink legally.
You have to be 21 to drink in Germany?
No, 18, but military, you know.
Follow the U.S. rules?
Yeah. Well, I guess you can drink off base at 18, yeah.
Okay.
But so I worked second and third shift a lot. And then, like, we would go in town to the festivals and stuff. And I really loved the German culture.
Yeah.
They really liked Americans in the part that we were at.
What part of Germany were you in?
So it was Spangdahlem Air Base on the western side. Like, it was really about 45 minutes from Luxembourg.
Okay.
And a couple hours south of Belgium. So I would go to Belgium all the time.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we flew into Munich over the summer. That's like all I know about Germany.
That's like far east.
Yeah. My last name Gruning. I'm German supposedly. We just did the ancestry thing where you spit in the thing.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for that to come back.
I want to do that. So my dad says I'm Dutch. My family built New York, Long Island, and everything. But I want to know what my mom's side is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that. I have one of those tests at home.
Yeah, it was sitting there for like a year. We just now did it. It's like we got it for Christmas like a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we got nothing to do today. Let's spit in this tube. So that's where we went. Okay, so you're in Germany. What all did you do in Germany? Like, what was your responsibilities? What was your life there? Like, what did you do?
So 12-hour days fixing jets in the pouring rain, sleet, and snow.
Yeah.
It was not fun. I'm 5'5". It was not a typical job that you would want as a 140-pound girl.
Yeah.
And it was hard because the aircraft, like a lot of it was really meant for somebody at least 5'9", 5'10", and muscular.
Yeah.
So like on the job requirements, it was, can you lift 100 pounds above your head?
So why did they put you there?
They didn't say all damn day.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't know. I guess that my recruiter needed to fill a slot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't looking out for what I would enjoy the best.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could go back and had a mentor at the time, I would have been in dental or something, sitting in a nice cozy office, you know? I mean, we didn't have lunch breaks or anything. It was really grueling. And so the worst thing is I had no bathroom access. So imagine being the only female and everybody else walks behind the hangar to go to the restroom.
Would you just pee outside?
No, I'm like walking 2 miles to go to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, in the freezing snow.
So how many women were around you at that point?
So my unit most of the time only had me or 2 other women that would come in. Like, people come and go.
Yeah.
You know, so like the engines had an engine female at one point, but I was usually the only girl there.
Yeah.
And the guys were not nice about it.
No?
No, they were like, you wanted this job, you do it, you know?
Well, I assume that was really forming you and creating you and toughening you up. I mean,
it did toughen
Did
me
you
up.
have any mentors during that point? I mean, that's 2-3 years there. I mean.
Yeah, so there was one guy who mentored me a lot. He was on my shift a lot. His name was Sergeant Sword, and now he's a major, I believe. So he went to school after work at Embry-Riddle. And that was actually one of the decisions I went when I got out of the Air Force. I went to Embry-Riddle because I remember him telling me about it.
Okay.
But he would mentor me a lot, but there wasn't a lot of FaceTime. It was get off this jet and catch it,
right.
you know, and then like just a couple seconds here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But he was the one who shaped me a lot, you know. And when
was he your direct report or for
no, I was reported to somebody else.
Okay.
So he was never. I don't think he was ever my my sergeant.
Yeah.
But he was just always really nice to me. You know?
Yeah.
We did weekend duty a lot together and everything.
Yeah.
And his wife was always nice to me too. So.
Yeah. That he sticks out to you.
Yep.
Okay. So you're fixing aircrafts, 2 years in Germany. Then what?
So I ended up getting hit in the chest with a pressurized air hose that flew off my. We were doing maintenance.
Wow.
At like 3 o'clock in the morning. And to do maintenance, you have to do an operational check. And the F-16 doesn't have a ground APU to like run it. Like you have to be a pilot to start up a jet.
Yeah.
So there's external ground engines, and you have to provide cooling air and electricity to it. So one of the hoses wasn't connected all the way, and it flew off and hit me in the chest as I was climbing up the ladder. And obviously I fell back onto the ground and everything. It didn't break anything right then.
Yeah.
But days go by and I'm starting to have chest pains and stuff. And, you know, the German doctors, they did x-rays, they did an EKG. They said, you're fine, go back to work, stop faking it, you know? And that was really the...
How far, or like how fast did it fly? Do you remember it pretty good?
I mean, it was thousands of PSI, I don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
it was definitely fast.
It was a big impact, yeah. And we were kind of like... Working on the flight line, you do toughen up because you have a lot of little minor accidents.
Yeah.
You know, like I fell off a jet before, you know, like I've fallen down ladders before in the rain and sleet, you know.
Yeah.
So that, like, I kept having chest pains, and finally one doctor, like 4 months later, he's like, "Oh, I know what's wrong with you. It's your cartilage, not, you know, your heart." And I'm like, finally, but I had to lift toolboxes and jet parts for the last 4 months, and became like a chronic issue. And my flight chief there was not kind, and he did not like me. And I ended up having to have a different emergency. I had an emergency surgery on my ovaries, and he PT tested me 2 days outside of surgery after I had stitches in my stomach. And he was really, I had a failed PT test, obviously, you know, like my stitches ripped open and stuff, and I had already had the chest pains.
Yeah.
And he was trying to use that to kick me out of the Air Force, because back then if you failed one PT test, they could do like an administrative, get you out.
Yeah.
I had just won what they call senior airman below the zone 6 months before, saying I was the best airman on base. You know, so how do you go from being the best to being the worst?
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I need to get out of Germany. So I was like, cancel my extension here, get me back to stateside. I need medical attention. And so they did. So I went back to, my next base was Idaho. And I was in Idaho, and I made a deal with the guys there. So I was smart enough not to make deals. I was like, you do all the lifting, I'll do all the screws and the paperwork.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
You know?
Idaho. How was Idaho?
So Idaho was actually pretty cool.
What part of Idaho?
So it was Mountain Home, Idaho. It was 45 minutes west of Boise.
Okay.
And so I worked the third shift there and went to school during the day.
Yeah.
And I knew I was probably going to get out eventually. So I mean, I didn't know what to do. So a lot of people in my unit were taking electronic computer tech certifications, and they were taking their fiber optics. And I couldn't do the fiber optics because I couldn't lift anything.
Yeah.
But I did the computer tech certification, you know, during the day and everything, just to have like a little something. Because like in the Air Force, in our unit, we thought that the more qualifications you had, the better chances of getting a job. Like everybody would like list on their resumes. We didn't know how
I
to
feel
do
like that's
resumes.
current day. Like people just have all these certifications.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Like I have an FCC growl license. I don't even know
Yeah.
why. Like I wasn't in the Navy. I don't know why I have it. But they decided to do a med board on me when I had orders to Florida, and they came back and they said, "You're gonna get out of the Air Force in 10 days." Bye. And it was a temporary medical retirement. And I was like, "Where am I going?" And I had just gotten married to my French boyfriend. All of a sudden, that impulse decision. Yeah. It was another traumatic experience that happened. But he was like, so I was physically assaulted by another senior airman, sexually assaulted, and my unit was not protected me. They sent me back to work the next day.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend flew in from California for my graduation. He's like, "I'm not leaving you here with these clowns."
Right.
And so he stayed. And then it was, okay, we should probably get married so I can have rights, And so when they came with the retirement, I was like, what are we going to do? We can't stay here in Idaho, And so he's like, "My family's in Atlanta." I was like, "I guess we go into Atlanta." Didn't research it or nothing. Military, you move and you find a place when you get there, you know? And so that we loaded up a U-Haul and moved to Atlanta.
Yeah. That was a lot of like my lifestyle when I was coaching. I was at 5 schools in 5 years. Mm-hmm. My entire life fit in my truck. It's like, you got a job, you got an opportunity, you got to think fast, and you just got to go.
Yep.
And man, so you're in Atlanta now.
Yep.
And talk to me about what's going on in Atlanta.
So in Atlanta, I really started focusing on recovering. I wanted to, by then, it was painful for me to even walk around the grocery store. I was really not doing well. So I had developed this condition called fibromyalgia from the chronic costochondritis, which is the cartilage being chronically inflamed in my chest wall.
Yeah.
And it was debilitating, And so I started changing my lifestyle. I read a couple books, and I had gained 40 pounds from all the steroids that they were giving me, and I wanted to lose the weight to get back to my little Air Force fighting shape. And so I started this. It was called Michael Thurman 6-Week Body Makeover. It was a diabetic diet concept, no processed food, no salt, no sugar, no chemicals, nothing in a box. You couldn't give me a Diet Coke back then, And I succeeded with that.
Couldn't kill it or couldn't grow it. You couldn't eat it, right?
Yeah. I made everything from scratch, and I did well. Regimented.
Yeah.
My military came in handy with that.
Yeah.
Once I decided I was going to do it, I did it. And I lost 45 pounds in 3.5 months and went back to work.
Yep.
And I started walking, and it was hard. I could barely walk to the stop sign, but I pushed myself a little bit more each day. And by the time three months goes by, I'm walking 5 miles a day. And I get a job. Somebody found my resume on Craigslist. You remember Craigslist?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I got my job.
Now you got to be careful going on Craigslist.
No, don't go on Craigslist now. So I got hired by an HVAC school doing job coaching, helping their graduates do resumes. And then I ended up running the registrar department.
Okay.
And I was going to school at night there.
How old were you at this point?
So 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still very young.
Yeah, 24, 25.
A lot happened from 18 to 24.
Yes.
There was a lot going on.
A lot going on. And so I was, finishing my bachelor's in aeronautics at Embry-Riddle at night. And my ex, so I had already divorced my husband by then.
Okay.
We were dumb 24-year-olds, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what 24-year-olds do? They're like...
I don't even want to go through my 24th year. Yeah. Oh, my God. I didn't get married until I was 30.
I don't think people should get married that young because you're not the same person.
You are not. You are not. And just, you've seen my face right now, 24, I'm like, whoa. So I get it. Yeah.
So I dated this guy, and, I think that everything has a domino effect, right? Looking back, I was like, oh, that caused that to happen.
Right. For sure.
So his mom worked at Social Security in human resources, and she said to me, she goes, "JoJo, give me your resume. They're hiring disabled veterans right now." They weren't allowed to hire anybody else but disabled veterans because they had a special hiring authority. Whereas if they have a disabled veteran, they don't have to go through the same rigmarole that they do for everybody else. So they were looking for disabled veterans. I was like, what am I going to do at Social Security? That sounds like the most boring job in the freaking world. I don't want to sit there and do Social Security numbers all day because I had no idea, you know. But I'm like, I need an action job. I need to be challenged. I needed to be challenged mentally. If I'm not challenged mentally, I'm bored and I want to go. And so she's like, just shut up and give me your resume. And so I give her my resume, and nothing happens. Like a year later, I get a phone call out of the blue, and they're like, hey, can you come in for an interview? I'm like, okay. So I go in for the interview. It's November 2009. And they're like, okay, so we like you. It sounds good and everything. We don't have hiring authority yet, but just wait. I'm like, okay, so you wasted my time for nothing,
right?
You know? So I go home and I don't even think about it. And like February comes around, they're like, so we're ready to hire you. Can you start in a month, you know? And my HVAC school threw me a big party. They wanted me to go, federal job, massive opportunity. They were happy for it, you know? And so I started working at Social Security and realized how complicated it freaking was.
Little did you know how much you would still be working with them years later. Well, not working with them, but dealing with them.
So the domino effect.
Yeah.
Had I never worked at Social Security, I would never have, been where I am today.
Yeah, be prepared to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I worked at Social Security 9.5 years total.
Okay, so that was a big stint. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I was there I didn't enjoy getting screamed at all day by the public.
Yeah.
So
this is like 25 to 35 you're there?
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly.
Well, 30, yeah.
24 to 34,
yeah.
24 to 33.
I'm thinking, I was like 2010, 28,
Yeah.
So the public is not always nice, and they would call and scream and come in and, call you the blue-eyed devil and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. So you were dealing with the public face-to-face?
Yeah, I was in a local office.
Yeah.
The local office does the bulk of the work. And you were expected to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping people, but it was really challenging when some people made it challenging.
Yeah. What were most of the people coming in for?
So many different things. Either missing checks back then. Now we do direct deposit. They failed to pay their Part B bill.
Yeah.
And they couldn't.
So you were dealing with Part B back then.
I was extra help for Part D back then.
Yeah.
I was helping people apply to the state for their Medicare savings program back then because they didn't know about it.
Do you still have a lot of connections there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was what they call a service rep, which handles everything post-check in the beginning. Mm-hmm. They like to start you in the back and then move you up front. And then I became a claims specialist. So anytime you apply for something, that's a claim. And so I started taking disability claims, and that was my life, and running the SSI program. SSI is a needs-based program, and so we are the payment center for that. So we had to do everything manually. People were bringing in, their spouses and parents' paycheck stubs and stuff like that. It was really tedious and complicated.
And you're still in Idaho at this point?
No, this is in Atlanta.
Oh, excuse me, Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Atlanta. I went to school at night to do my master's because I thought that getting a degree, an advanced degree, would get me a promotion out of the office. Because I was like, I don't want to sit here for 30 years. I need something more challenging than this. And I mean, I was at GS11 making about $80,000 a year, but my inflation and bills, I wasn't really seeing a difference, And so I finished my master's, and then I had all this time on the weekends. I had no idea what to do with all this free time.
Yeah, what was going on in Atlanta? What were you doing?
So I just worked all day, went to school at night,
and
I quantitative analysis classes and stuff on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then so 2 years go by, and I have no promotion. My manager, my supervisor was blocking all the promotion opportunities for me. A lot of nepotism in the government.
Yeah.
And I had a $500 a month student loan bill to pay. Well, how do you come up with extra money when your check there's no overtime, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do that? I was like, well, I'm going to probably have to go get a job at Walmart or something on the weekend. But I'm making $35 an hour here. Who's going to pay me $35 an hour on the weekend,
Right.
And so somebody pitched me to get an insurance license to sell insurance.
Oh, the transition's
Saturdays.
Coming. Here we go. Okay.
And
who was that someone?
It was just a recruiter for this company.
But not a memorable relationship, just typical.
Yeah.
Recruiter. Yeah.
It wasn't. He didn't. So I succeeded him within the first couple months.
Yeah.
But a couple of the MLMs, you recruit first, write insurance second.
Yeah.
And but he had pitched to me, and originally I thought about my disabled sister who was living with me in Atlanta. I moved her down from New York to start a different life. And I was like, well, Abby could probably use that. It would keep her busy while I'm at work. Well, she ended up going back to New York. And he's like, well, what about you? Couldn't you use, a couple $1,000s a week to pay off your student loans? I was like, heck yeah, I could,
Yeah.
They were recruit first.
So that was the pitch, is like, hey, this is your secondary income.
Yeah.
This is your $35 an hour on the weekends. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I knew about insurance before, so I didn't tell you this, but when I got out of the Air Force, 2 weeks out of the Air Force, I was at a job fair, World Congress Center.
Yeah.
Primerica was there recruiting, pitching it as a job. And I went through the 40-hour licensing class, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, thinking I was getting a job.
Yeah.
And it was not a job. And when I found out it wasn't a job, after giving them my last $250, I was like, I need a job. I have a foreign spouse to support who can't work. And my retirement check only covered my rent. It didn't cover my car insurance or food or anything. So I was like, I really wish that people, when they're recruiting, tell the entire story. Yeah. Show me the entire roadmap so I can have an educated response, you know? I don't like when people give part of the story, you know?
Yeah.
Because had they told me the entire thing in 2007, I didn't know that I had a temporary license mailed to Primerica's corporate office. I didn't know that was what my $250 paid for. They weren't transparent with that.
Do you think there's a lot of misconception or still being misled in the insurance recruiting world? And
100%. A lot of people recruit for, and some people have gotten in trouble for the way they recruit. You know, you can't make income claims and things like that because I might make way less than your potential or way more than your potential, because it's really a business opportunity if you're 1099, which is what I was. I wasn't working for an agency or anything. And they didn't really train you that well. I didn't have any ride-alongs, and I wish I did.
Yeah.
Because, I'm the type of girl, the way the Air Force trains you is, I'm going to show you how to do it, and then you're going to do it, I'm going to watch you do it, and I'm going to correct any of your mistakes, right? Kind of like a monkey see, monkey do program, right?
Yeah.
That's how I learned, monkey see, monkey do.
Right.
That was not the case.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle. I struggled because they were doing life insurance, and I was buying leads 2 hours away in Gadsden, Alabama. They wouldn't let me buy leads from them in, Atlanta, and I didn't know I could buy leads anywhere else.
So let's back up real quick. You got recruited.
Yep.
And then you said yes, and you started doing life insurance at this point?
Life insurance.
Okay, and this is around 33, 34 in that range?
So this is 2016. I'm trying to do my math in my head. I was 34, yeah.
Okay. So 2016 is when you kind of started getting really into the insurance industry? Mm-hmm. Okay. About the same time. We both got into it. Okay. 2016, and you're running life leads?
Yep.
Okay. Talk to us about that.
So I wasn't trained. I'm not from sales. I came from policy and military. Yeah. So I don't know how to sell.
Yeah.
Right? Very analytical.
What do you think, though, from your background, prepared you for that start in insurance?
It didn't.
From your past. No, it didn't?
It didn't.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
It didn't. So I think the best takeaway I had was, if you don't succeed the first time, you figure out how to make it succeed. I think that a lot of people come into the industry and they don't see success initially, and they just walk away after they did all the work to get their license and everything.
Yeah.
And they don't try to find a way to succeed, right? One thing about me is I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
And if I put all this time and effort into something, I'm not just going to walk away just because I don't understand how to do it today.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure this out.
Well, I would slightly disagree, because it sounds to me like you got into the military with no experience. You figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay. You were very good at what you did, right? So then
mediocre.
Then you went into insurance and you figured it out.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have any experience. So, I think it prepared you in a way, maybe not knowing it, but it kind of prepared you in a way
the
in terms
skills,
of, the
skill set.
Of just figuring it out and being determined and finding a way, because that's the biggest thing in our industry is most people just quit.
Most people quit. Yeah. And they could be just so close to the success.
That's what I see all the time is people quit right before, like it could be life-changing forever, but they quit right before that tough part to get over the hill. They're like right up, and they get slammed down, never come back.
Yeah.
But you're running life leads. So talk to us about that struggle or that.
So working full time during the day and then trying to call leads before the opportunity meeting Thursday night at 6:00.
Yeah.
I was like, I sucked. I hate the phones. I still hate the phones, by the way.
Who likes them?
I suck on the phones. Nobody. Yeah. So you would think, I call people all day. I talk to people all day.
Yeah.
It's different when you're calling them from the government saying, hey, I have a check for you.
Yeah. People want to talk to you.
Versus, hey, you should buy some life insurance. They'd be like, I throw me in the river,
Yeah.
So I was trying to get appointments to run in Alabama on Saturdays. And it was hard to get people on the phone. It's hard to get through the objections for me and everything. So I might have gotten like 2 or 3 appointments in a day.
Yeah.
And then usually one's going to no-show you.
Oh, yeah.
One's going to be on dialysis, you know, and then one's going to want it but can't afford it, right? And that was pretty much my luck.
All 3 of them can't actually get the insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
That was pretty much my luck. And I was like, man, this is really tough. How am I going to make this go? And I was like, I'm putting all this effort into it, but I'm not seeing the results. But I was going to the trainings every Thursday night. It wasn't really training. It was more of a recruitment pitch for you to bring people. And one girl, she said to me, she goes, you should do Medicare. And I said, what do you mean I could do Medicare? I thought people just called Humana, Aetna, 1-800-MEDICARE. And she's like, no, that you could be 1099 broker there. I was like, really? I was like, And she's like, yeah, I sell for United Healthcare, and I put up a table at like a health fair, and I make about 4 sales. I said, sign me up. Yeah. Right?
So you're in the insurance enough where you like it enough to keep going, and then, okay. Again,
because I was seeing people succeed. It just wasn't me yet.
Okay, cool.
I was like, well, so this dummy could do it.
You were exposed to success at least.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it, in my opinion, is like just being a part of an organization or a community where there are people that are on the other side of it.
Yep.
Where you can see the finish line more than anything. It's like you're around a bunch of jokers. How the heck are you supposed to like get to that next level? So you were exposed to it.
I saw some people succeed. I was like, if they can make $10,000, $20,000 a month, like what do I need to do to fix what I'm doing? Right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to shadow people, and I was like, can I ride along? I'll take a day off of work and ride with you. And no, I don't want you. You know. And so this girl introduced me to United Healthcare, and her FMO was really just a contract house back then.
Yeah.
I think that the industry has really changed in the last 6 years, because back then there was no Facebook groups. They really just gave you a contract and expected the carriers to train you. But when do the carriers train? Before COVID, they would just have face-to-face trainings in the middle of the day. Well, where was I in the middle of the day? Sitting at Social Security working, right? And so I was like, all right, I got AHIP certified with 6 carriers in Georgia. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And it was Veterans Day, 2017. I go to a Blue Cross Anthem kit pickup. And I was like, all right, so it's an hour away. My broker manager is going to be there. I wonder if I can convince him to train me, right? So I go there. I was like, I don't need any kits. Matter of fact, I ordered 50 boxes by accident because you don't know.
Right.
Like nobody told me not to order 500 kits.
Right.
Right.
I remember those days carrying around the kits. Yeah. Had your accordion freaking thing in the back of your car. It's like, okay, if I get a sale, I'll just go to my accordion, flip through, and grab it.
Yeah. And so I walk in and I was like, I don't know how to do a presentation.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do an application. Can you help me? And he sat there for 2 hours teaching me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, tell you what are you doing Thursday after work? I was like, he's like, I'll meet you across the street from your job and I'll teach you how to do an e-app then. And he did. You know, his name is David Burke now, and he went from Anthem to Aetna, and now he works for an FMO.
Yeah.
And
name sounds familiar.
He's in the Georgia region still. But people like that, you're always just grateful for the time they took on you.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember when people are kind to me.
Yeah.
You know,
there's always that one person that sees something in you that other people don't, and maybe takes that extra step that other people don't.
Exactly, because he didn't have to.
Right.
He didn't have to spend hours with me. He didn't have to re-meet me and everything. And I wasn't his top producer that year. You know, but when he went to Aetna, I was his first phone call.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I'm your new Aetna broker manager. I was like, yes.
you know? So David Burke took a chance on you, it
he
sounds
did.
like.
He took a chance on me,
And you can see it when you talk about him. It still impacts you in some way. It's cool.
And you know, you find people like that. So my former mentor, Joe Tritola, he found me on Facebook. I had just asked a question, how do you get a Medicare release? Because this contract house I was under.
Yeah, did you have a bunch of contracts at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I called them and said, how do I get a table like in front of CVS? Like, because I thought if I could get in front of people on the weekend, like I could make some sales. But how do you find people to sell when you are at work 9 to 5, right? And so Joe answers one of my questions on the Facebook group. And I was like, I'm trying to get a release because I saw this other FMO offering a Walmart. And I want the Walmart. So nobody would tell you how to get a release back then, right? And it didn't dawn on me to just call the carrier. But, you know, the little things that we don't think about. So Joe's helping me and everything, and he's answering my questions. I was like, you're really nice, you know? And so I gave him some of my contracts that the Walmart didn't need, you know?
Yeah.
And we built a friendship and everything. I did the Walmart that following AEP.
This is 2017-ish?
2018 AAP.
Okay, yeah.
I left my office at 3:30 to get to my Walmart at 4:30.
Yeah, you're still working Social Security at this point. Okay.
Yep. So
And you're starting to make some good income on the other hand, on the insurance side.
Well, no, I was still sucking.
Okay. And how?
Still
So
sucking.
that was a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
Where you're sucking, in your words. Yeah.
I was a long time of sucking.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, because like I was the biggest introvert in the world.
Yeah.
I was afraid of my own shadow. I was afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
And like I knew I have a really good memory. So if you tell me something, I can repeat it to you.
Yeah.
But once again, I was afraid of talking to people.
Yeah.
You know, like I never imagined that I would have that fear, you know, especially after all the education everything I went through. So I get in front of the Walmart, and you know, and people started coming over, and I got over a little bit of my fear, you know. And I
feel like a lot of people can get over their fears. You just stay at Walmart for a day with all the interaction.
I think that it should be probably part of the training, you know.
No, I mean apart from Medicare, if you just go into Walmart and walk around for a day.
So I would work there nights and weekends, and not like sporadically. I was there Monday through Friday nights from 5 to 9.
This is AEP though, right?
AEP. Yeah. And then from like 9 to 7 Saturday and Sunday. Like I treated it like a real part-time job. Like going to Walmart was my part-time job. And, you know, we weren't allowed to approach people. People have to come over.
Right.
But I would be thinking, you know, if I don't say something to this lady, they might, you know, qualify for extra help and not even know it. They might qualify for Medicare Savings Program and not even know it. And a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And I started seeing success. Like, you know, people on Facebook back then, and still today, they'll say, oh, I sold 1,000 policies, but not tell you how to do it, right?
Right.
And so I sold 29 policies in 3.5 weeks with bronchitis and a failing gallbladder, and I thought I sucked, you know?
So you're starting to hum at this point.
Well, I was proud of myself, you know?
Yeah.
And then I had to have an emergency surgery, so that was okay.
Oh man, yeah.
But I was like, okay, I think I caught on a little bit. You know, usually if you write your first 20, it's starting to click a little bit, right? So I get the store for OEP, and I'm still doing the same. And so 2019 summer, I was getting every virus that came into the Social Security office. Like, I had no immune system, and we were all chronically sick, and I was using all of my vacation time being sick. And I also have the chest pains, too. And so I called in from the ER one day, August 2019. I said, hey, I have strep throat. I need a day of sick leave, 2 days of sick leave, I don't know. And I needed advanced sick leave because the previous summer winter when I had my gallbladder surgery, I had to take advanced sick leave because I was out for like 2 weeks and unplanned. My supervisor said, I can't afford to give you sick leave. Everybody else called in already. I need you to come in. And they weren't not nice about it. And they said, if you don't come in, you're going to be AWOL. Now, you don't tell a military girl that they're going to be AWOL. Right. Like, to me, that means that if I don't come in, you're going to have somebody come arrest me. You know? So I go in, and they put me on the phones for 8 hours. Now, I had strep throat. Talking was painful. And I was like, I was tired of someone else telling me that I couldn't take care of my health.
Right.
Like, how do you have more jurisdiction over my life than I have over my life?
Right.
You just pay me $35 an hour. How do you own my life, right? And that's what I think is the big misconception with jobs. Like, here in America, our jobs pretty much own us. Right? It's crazy.
Culturally, yeah.
Like, I just rent you my time, but you feel like you can own me. You feel like you can tell me I can't go on vacation, I can't be sick, when I can do stuff, you know? And I wrote my resignation.
That day? Yep.
And they were shocked. I went in the next day late, and I gave them my badge and said goodbye. It was a really tearful goodbye because I'd been there for almost 10 years. But they were shocked. My manager was shocked, and I forwarded my resignation to the commissioner. But I told them, it was like, your people are your greatest asset. And if you can't take care of your people, then you have nothing. Because with me, when I walk out this door, my 9.5 years of knowledge walks out with me. And I'm one of the very few people in this office that know how to do every job. You know, because Social Security was still running on an antiquated system. The new people, it usually takes 5 years to learn the basics of a job there, you know. I was like, you're losing my experience. And, so I just had to believe in myself. I was like, all right, to replace what I take home, I was taking home after taxes and everything, like $3,500 a month. I was like, I just really need like 10 sales to replace that, right?
And then you had more time now.
Yeah.
But real quick though, I mean, what do you think? There's a lot of people that are watching that are maybe in a situation where they're owned, right? Mm-hmm. They're trading their time for rent, in other words. Mm-hmm. Like what can help somebody like make that jump or make that leap, or what makes somebody make that jump or leap?
When the pain of staying the same
yeah.
becomes greater than the pain of change. But I was meticulous with my time. A lot of people want to eventually go on their own, but they're going home and not utilizing their 5 to 9 p.m. hours. Yeah. They're playing video games, they're watching webinars, and they're not making income producing activity.
Yeah, revenue generating activity.
So like because I had done revenue generating activity and saw some success with sales, if you can write 1, you can write 10, and if you can write 10, you can write 100.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you had to be meticulous with your time, because your time, every minute of your time is valuable. Right now, I equate 1 minute to $16, right? So you have to be meticulous with your time. And top producers protect their time. You're not wasting your time watching nonsense. It has to be income generating if you're going to try to work yourself out of a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you also said that stuck out to me, it's like your people are the best thing you have. Mm-hmm. And I can tell from the company you created now, which we're about to get into, that you learned from how you were treated on how not to treat others mm-hmm. and make an amazing culture, an amazing company. So fast forwarding, you've left Social Security, now you're going full time. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
So it was right before COVID. And I had a pretty okay AEP, even though my previous upline, I had moved uplines a couple times. He kept my marketing money. But I still got it out the mud because I kept my Walmart and stuff, and I had other relationships. I had told Joe, like at the end of that AEP, Joe Tritola, and I'm always very thankful for his mentorship. He really took me under his wing. I said, you've been the most honest with me. I want to move all of my contracts to you because you deserve to get compensated for my work.
And who is this?
Joe Tritola.
Are you still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he had only had like my United Healthcare, and a lot of my other stuff was, like under 2 other guys. And so I moved my stuff to him, and I go down to Florida to, I really felt like I was missing stuff that I never learned face-to-face and having like on-hands training like you do. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to come down to Florida for a week or 2 and like really just fill in the missing gaps of my knowledge, like on how to actually do stuff and be more successful. So I did. I went down to Boynton Beach and shadowed him in the office for a couple of days. And on my way there, people were calling me. Like I had already had 2 of my Facebook groups. And I was
at that point you'd already started Facebook groups?
Yeah.
What made you think to start them then back then?
So it wasn't actually my brilliant idea. So Joe had created the very first one December 2017, and he didn't do much with it. And then when I met him in 2018, he's like, yeah, I made this Facebook group, but I really don't know how to run a Facebook group. I was like, I do, because I run a veterans Facebook group.
Oh, you're okay. So you were running one before then. Okay.
Yeah. So the current veterans Facebook group has 760,000 members. And I was an admin. They brought me in because of my Social Security expertise. I was like, I do. And so I was just like, people were asking questions like Extra Help and Irma, and I was just answering them just because I knew.
In his group.
Yeah. And then he made me an admin and everything. And I just started answering questions and putting out content by accident. Yeah. It was all accidental success. There was no formula for me at the time. I was trying, if I helped you answer your Social Security questions, I was hoping that you would help me answer my how to damn do this question, right?
Yeah.
Like a reciprocal, relationship.
You're just being authentic and just helping.
Yeah. And that year in 2018, some men were not so nice in the life groups, and I created the Insurance Ladies because I wanted women to have a place where they could ask a question and not be berated or talked down to, and so I created the Insurance Ladies just to have a different culture.
Yeah. Well, the Facebook groups can be tough. I mean, like it's crazy to me, the stuff that's said out there. And people will say anything behind a screen and a keyboard, but it's like that's one thing I kind of watch from a distance, get my popcorn out. There's a lot of craziness.
There's a lot of personality.
Yeah.
And some people think that they're right, and I've been the person who thought I was right, right? And one thing I learned is, like what we do is like insurance. It's not, I'm not talking about your mom. I'm not talking about your wife or kids. It's insurance. It has nothing to do with us, right?
Yeah.
And so if you believe something works a different way, it shouldn't be a personal attack. It shouldn't, if we disagree on, say, like an IRMA appeal, it shouldn't turn into, well, you're short and fat anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did it go from we disagree about it, how an IRMA appeal functions over to a personal attack, you know? And I think, I wish we could change society and how people learned to debate. I guess that's what one thing I tried to learn in college is how to have a difference discussion that's productive and not turning into like a political attack. Right?
That's one thing I feel like I've learned easily is we don't have to agree on everything. People can have differentiating opinions.
And different experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my experience is going to be different than your experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think a lot of people haven't learned that, or just there's immaturity when it comes to that type of stuff. So you've got some Facebook groups rocking and rolling. You're down in Florida now. Have you moved to Florida?
I did move to Florida. I wanted to move to Florida.
I still want to move to Florida sometimes.
Well, then the hurricanes come, so then I was like, nah. So some people called me and they're like, hey, Joanna, we see you answering a lot of questions, and we want to talk about you being our upline for our call center. And I was like, upline for a call center? I was like, Joe, this sounds like is above my pay grade, you know? And he's like, let's go talk to them, you know, let's see what it's about. And so he goes with me to the meeting and everything. He's like, you can be my partner on this. He's like, I'm local, so I can help them train in the office and everything, and you can help me do the paperwork and onboard them and virtually train them. I was like, all right. So we made a deal, right? And they started onboarding other call centers. And then all the agents from Facebook started knocking on my door, like banging on my door. Hey, can
and this
you
was
help
early,
me?
what year was this?
Early 2020.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, right? So COVID happens, and Joe has he was a master telephone agent. And so he's teaching telesales for free and Medicare Mentors, and the agents are just banging on our doors. They just are like, hey, I need help.
Would you attribute this just to you putting out, like you helping people for free and doing things just because you thought that was the right thing to do?
Yep.
Which is interesting because, I mean, I put out content every day. And once I started doing stuff for free and started putting stuff out, it's like you put stuff out to the market that's genuine, real, free, people will come to you in droves. And
a lot of times it's not who you help that comes back to you. It's people watching who you helped. And they're watching in the background like you said that you were, you know?
I mean, when I go to these events, like I've only been to a couple events. I'm not a big event junkie. Like I usually go just because that's all right. But like I'm always watching from afar is what I'm getting at. It's like when I go somewhere, it's really so I can see the person, see how they interact, see if they're full of shit, to be honest, and see if I would really want to go deeper with them. And I think so many people are behind the scenes really doing that. And when you put out real, genuine, authentic stuff, like you said, people are watching and will ultimately attract authentic, skilled people if you do that.
So attracted, I think we recruited about 500 people in 2 years.
Holy smokes, yeah.
And they knocked on our doors. We never recruited anybody. I never slid in anybody's DMs. We never cold called anybody. They all inboxed us and said, hey, I want to talk to you about working with you. And, you know, not every agent is going to do the work, right? 90% don't.
Right.
And sometimes it's 90% don't because they're not at the point in their life or that they have other things going on. But the 10% that did was pretty profitable, you know? So,
so was Top Flight created by this point or not?
No.
Okay.
So I was the vice president of agent development at Nation Care, which is Joe's company.
Okay.
And
you were an independent agent as well.
So
you were writing your own business.
I was writing my own business, and I was getting a small salary for training his agents because all the agents were going.
Were you getting an override on that too, or bonus? No.
I was supposed to, but it didn't really happen like that.
Override kind of was the salary, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. And then Joe had gone through some things in his life, and he decided to sell his portion of the company, and that was December 2021.
Okay.
And the new owners and I didn't really see eye to eye on the progression of the company and my role in it. And I was like, well, I saw what Joe was making, and felt like I was doing a lot of the work, you know? I was like, Joe pretty much taught me how to do it. Like, we got it out the mud, you know?
And at this point, were you making more income than you were?
No. And so I had stayed on with the new owners for like 4 months. and there was a disagreement, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna go take my ball and go home, you know, and I did, and for a while I stayed under them
in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yeah. They were in Florida.
Yep.
I stayed under them for a while, and I took a portion of the agents and created Top Flight.
This in 2022, it sounds
2022.
Like? Yep.
I created Top Flight May 13, 2022. I was just sitting there. They were like, we need an LLC by the end of this day.
Well, let's talk about Top Flight, because we got that off camera. It's so cool. Tell us how, like Coach G, that's my past, right?
Yeah.
I coached for 10 years. People couldn't pronounce my last name, so they just called me Coach G. That's why Coach G was created.
Yeah.
Top Flight has a lot to do with your past.
Yes.
I would love to hear about that.
So Top Flight, I was sitting there, actually my friend Justin Brock's office, he invited me over, and my previous partners, Uplines, they wanted me to have my LLC done like that day.
Yeah.
And you had to come up with a name to file.
Yep.
And it has to be kind of unique because I was already in like 40 different states, so like I couldn't be, one thing in one state and there'd be that company somewhere else. A lot of people Premier, Elite, yada yada.
Yeah.
I didn't want to use my last name. I already made the mistake before of trying to use like Georgia Senior Solutions, and people in Florida be like, oh, but you're in Georgia. You know, I didn't want anything like that. I already had a downline, so I didn't want it to be branded just to me.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going through like the dictionary, like I'm just like
Too
Googling
bad
stuff.
ChatGPT wasn't around.
ChatGPT was not around, and it just clicked on me. I was like, so Top Flight is the cream of the crop in the Air Force, the top unit, if you will. And my unit had always won Top Flight. And so I felt like my agents are probably the best trained. I invest a lot into their training and everything. I felt like we're the Top Flight.
Yep.
And that's how I came about the name. Now, I didn't know, you learn a lot. I didn't know that there was a Top Flight Insurance Services in California that does P&C auto insurance. I do get a lot of their nasty phone calls.
Yeah.
But so if you're going to create your own company, there's a database you can run in all 50 states.
The DBA kind of database, or just company database, LLC?
It's like an LLC database,
For all 50? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Are you trademarked?
I have not.
Yeah. I trademarked this. I saw that trademark thing going on a year or two ago. I'm like, yeah, trademark.
So I have a couple different companies. My training company, Medicare Mentors Media. I added media because somebody went to do their LLC the month before I did my LLC, and they used my name, Medicare Mentors.
Yeah.
And then they went and did a trademark, but they just had trademarked their logo.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they already beat me to it, and they're like, I'm building the name, but they're benefiting from me building my name.
Yeah.
I was like, do I do a name change? Like, one of my colleagues had to do that. Like, Justin had to do a name change several times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I don't really know if I want to go through that, So I just added the media.
Yeah. Yeah, and it works.
Yeah. It hasn't hurt me yet.
Yeah, no.
It hasn't hurt me yet.
Yeah.
I think that I haven't figured out a better name for it.
No, it all rings. So you got that. You got Top Flight.
Yeah.
And then do you have a third one?
Yeah. So we created last year. I saw a lot of my agents struggle with automations.
Yeah.
And, a lot of us buy a Go High Level, and then we don't know how to use it, and we don't have the time to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And that was me. I had like a Go High Level for 2 years, didn't know how to use it. My partner, Zach, comes into my life, and he's doing all my automations and stuff, and he's like, Joanna, like, this is really taking a lot of my time, because the agents were like, hey, Zach, can you do it my account too? Hey, Zach, can you do my account? Yeah. I was like, you are losing money. Instead of selling insurance at $700 an hour, you're in people's Go High Levels putting on automations for $10 an hour,
Yep.
And I was like, there must be an easier way. So we created a concierge service for Go High Level using our international employees. And they build out your entire Go High Level from the get-go and make it ready to launch. Like my VA right now, she's building people's Facebook ads, launching their Facebook ads and everything, and they're not doing it. You know?
Yeah.
And it's part of their service.
Turnkey concierge.
Turnkey.
Yeah. Which a lot of people want that and need that. I mean, there's so many people I talk to that just get so caught up in that stuff, and it's just like if they had an option just to have it turnkey, it could be really beneficial to a lot of people.
Because a lot of agents don't do stuff because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and that's what I always say about product. If you don't know how about the product, you don't feel comfortable with the product, you won't sell the product.
Exactly.
And it's no different with automations, no different with CRMs, and that's awesome. So that's been successful, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still getting that one out the mud, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we launched it a couple weeks before Zach's baby was born.
Yeah.
And then Zach's wife, who had the baby, obviously,
Yeah.
she has a heart attack while we're getting our nails done.
What?
Yeah, last August I flew up there.
Is she
to
okay
help.
now?
She's here.
Yeah.
She's still going through cardiac rehab.
Yeah.
But like we had a lot of things that were unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, and then I had Tamara in the hospital, and so we went through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So we were building it at the same time as the world comes crashing down on them. You know.
Well, that's why you have a community, and these people that you're close with, they're all here with you this week.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 22 to 24, 25 present day. So you've made a name for yourself in the industry, obviously, over the years. You've got an awesome downline. What happened in 2022 to 2025? It sounds like that's where the real big growth started happening.
Yeah. So I go out on my own. I find a new IMO who they had the technology I needed, but more than the technology, they had the mentorship I needed.
Yeah.
They were really investing in me. You know, it's hard being a leader. You're a coach, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you got a coach?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I needed, because like you can't learn to be a better leader if you don't have an example of how to do it, right? Who am I going to call after I get kicked in the teeth? After an agent tells me I'm the world's biggest piece of shit, like who do I call, right? And like I needed to find somebody who has been there and done it, and who can pick me up off the floor and, you know, fix my crown. And so I found that with my IMO, and I love them. They go to bat for me all the time, and so a lot of times I call them and be like, I have this problem. I need to figure out how to fix it, and they just help me fix it, you know.
Yeah.
So I just answered the call to serve. I call myself a servant leader.
Yep.
A lot of people would say, hey, Joanna, can you come speak at our NABIB, NAIFA, you know, seven-figure
Summit.
Yep. I spoke at Christians. I was supposed to speak 2 years in a row. The first year I was on a cruise and I got COVID.
Oh.
I called Christian like the day before. I was like, so I'm coming back from a cruise in Alaska and I have COVID. You don't want me to come?
Yeah.
And I spoke at a lot of different conferences. Medicarians, MedicareCon had me as a guest on a breakout. And I'm grateful for the opportunity, the exposure.
Yeah.
And when you help people, people see your heart, your genuineness, right? And they just knocked on the doors, you know? So a lot of the growth came from just being, like they call me omnipresent. I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
But social media allows you to do that, you know? And sometimes social media gives a false sense of
how things really are.
Yeah, because you can, like, and I try to be really transparent, but like things might look really good, like the business and everything, but like your personal life might not be so good, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I really wanted to get out of Atlanta. I was in a not so great situation, relationship, and it was really stunting my growth. You know, like if you're building a castle and someone's, you know, knocking it down every day, you try to build it, right? Drilling holes in your ship faster than you can patch them. So last year I decided to just start over. And you know me, I'm quick to jump on a plane.
So that was last year?
Last year.
So you moved to Houston about a year ago?
April,
okay.
Yeah.
So pretty recent move. Gotcha.
So I was on a cruise.
Yeah. A lot of things start on a cruise here. COVID.
I got COVID twice on a cruise. So I came into Houston to do a Social Security seminar for agents for my downline. To help them grow their businesses. I filled the room in like a week on Facebook, and went on a cruise. I'm telling my friend, I was like, I want to move close to the shore. I was thinking like Destin, Florida, Biloxi, Mississippi area, but I wanted a house with a pool. I was like, I'm doing all this work. I want to see the results of my work. And then I work from home because of my disability. Like a lot of times it's hard for me to be anywhere at 9 o'clock in the morning with chest pains, you know? And I love working from home. But your home, when you don't leave the house for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, your house, it really impacts your mental status. You know, if you don't have peace at home, it's hard to have peace in everything else. And so I was like, I really want this, when I was conceptualizing, I was like, I want a house with a pool. I want like a coastal vibe, just imagining what I wanted my life to look like. And that actually, a lot of people talk about manifestation, but how do you know what you want your life to look like if you never dream about what you want your life to look like? Like, how do you get there, right?
Yep.
And so I'm telling her, she's like, Joanna, we have pools everywhere here in Houston. And so I get on Zillow and I'm looking.
Every house got a pool.
I was like, wait a minute, I could get this for this? Because I thought it was like millions of dollars, you know? And I'm looking, and we're on a cruise, and she's contacting her high school friend who's a realtor back in Houston. And her realtor's making me a list of houses.
Yeah.
The day after we get off the cruise, we go look in the houses. And the
there
house,
you are, action.
The house that I lease now, I didn't buy it, I just lease it.
Yeah.
It was the second house we saw. I had 3 agents with me, and it was just the vision. Like, you walk in my house and there's a massive room. I was like, I can have agents training in here. I was like,
I think I've seen pictures where you have people at your house.
Yeah, so I had a pre-AEP party at my house.
Yeah.
I had,
It was like a margarita theme or like a luau theme or something like that.
Yeah. So I had a pre-AEP party with 5 carriers and some vendors come. And it was nice, but that was my vision. The day I saw that house, that was my vision, right?
Yeah.
Again, you have to envision what you want your life to look like. And just a lot of hard work. I mean, I worked 18 hours a day. Like, there's sun up to sundown. I'm working in my bed, answering questions, emails at midnight. Like, there was no relaxing.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to change my life. How do you do that? You do the work.
Yeah.
And so I did the work, and I'm now just starting to see the results of doing that work.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, as I summarize kind of this story, is like 2016 to 2024 was not an easy path for you. I mean, it sounds like you really just started humming in the last couple of years and really making some big-time income and really big-time moves, and you've got an incredible business. But my point with all that is, like, a lot of people watching this, they see the social media, they see the glamour and the glitz, and they think it happens in a year.
It's not an overnight
2
success.
years.
It wasn't
No.
a 2-year success. I had gone through a lot of missteps. I had a lot of, and I wish I had like a mentor in the early stages to just cut my learning curve. And that's my job now. I feel like my job now is to cut the learning curve so my agents don't go through the same nonsense I went through.
Yeah. Well, I say it all the time. You are most qualified to mentor, coach who you once were. You are now mentoring and coaching people that were in your shoes, and you're helping them expedite and get there a lot faster than you did through your mistakes, through your lessons. And that's when you're seeing a lot of change in your life, because you're able to change a lot of other people's lives, it sounds like.
It's so rewarding when you see that someone that you're mentoring is actually listening and taking action.
Yeah.
Not just, because I can teach you everything, but you have to apply the knowledge.
Yeah, there's
knowledge
no doubt.
without application is nothing.
Yep.
Right? And that's what we see a lot in this industry is there's a lot of training now.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing training now. Unlike 6 years ago, there was no training, right? There's a couple of people with other universities and stuff, but you have to apply the knowledge.
Yeah.
You have
What
to.
do you think makes someone take action, like with training or knowledge or anything? Like, what prevents people from actually taking the action?
Preventing people is they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
They, Zach and I were talking last night at our Airbnb, and he was telling about one of his downlines. He's like, she did not believe that the advice I was going to give her was going to work, and so she just did it like half-assed.
Yeah.
And she didn't believe in herself. Same thing, I didn't believe in myself when I was picking up the phone to dial.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in myself.
How do we get over that hump?
So one of my former uplines told me, fail fast.
Yeah.
Like, you can make these 20 dials, these 20 first appointments, stretch all year long, and it's going to be painful, or you can knock out those 20 appointments this week. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Right? Same thing when you were coaching, right? Like, how do you get over it? You show up to practice.
Yeah.
You lose some games, right?
Well, I say it all the time when I was coaching, like, freshmen are not supposed to play, right? They're freshmen. We're developing them, right? So a lot of new agents come in and they don't understand they're freshmen, okay? You got to be developed. You got to put in your reps. We did the same exact drills every single day. Then you're a sophomore, okay? Now maybe you're starting to get some playing time. Junior, you should be starting. Senior, you should be a stud. And that's really the development. I mean, I put it all back to football, but I think a lot of people misunderstand that you're going to have a lot of issues early on, and it's we don't lose, we learn.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. I agree with you. It's like, hey, you've got to put the reps in. You've got to fail fast.
You got to show up to practice.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is you've got to be consistent and show up. I mean, the biggest things, I mean, like you're talking about right now, I mean, my story is very similar. I made $33,000 my first year. I lived in my mom's basement. There's a lot of zeros on that number now. But my point being, that's 9 to 10 years of I didn't do anything different, just 9 to 10 years of doing the same thing over and over again. It compounds like crazy.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to head to the fire round and wrap this thing up.
Okay. What you got?
Been awesome so far. These are just questions like completely off the cuff.
Okay.
And just getting to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So like you're not doing insurance, you're not working. What are your hobbies? Like what do you like to do?
Cruise.
Cruise, obviously. Yeah. I could have guessed that one.
Can I tell you? It's not so much of a secret, but it's not widely known.
Yeah.
So I have a dream. So, and I think that a lot of people, they don't do because they don't have anything to inspire them to do better, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us get stuck in the same old, and Groundhog's Day because we don't dream. We don't have a goal, right? Like I'm not so goal oriented like sports people, but when I get something that I want, now I'm like aimed at that, right?
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be the top in my class when I was in my master's. I wanted a 4.0. So during COVID, I watched Island Hunters on HGTV.
Yeah.
And I saw people who could buy an island for like $500,000, $1 million.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want an island.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very big introvert, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I go to all these conferences. I am a conference junkie, but not really for me. I go to see my people, right?
When you bring your people.
That's really cool. People, yeah. Well, because a lot of times I want them to get coached from other people that I respect, like you.
So important. That's the most important thing is because people, you may have said exactly what I'm going to say this weekend, but they need to hear it from somebody else.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
So a lot of times I might say something to my agent and they hear it like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
But when you hear it, they'll be like
the best thing for sliced bread. It
right.
pisses you off, but it's like it needs to happen.
You have to have a different mentality as an upline. Like, yeah, Chase is going to say the same thing I've told you the last 2 years, but it's not about my ego.
Right,
I just need them to catch on, right?
Yep.
Like, I've been wanting them to focus on cross-selling, and that's why we're here,
Yep.
is because I need them to diversify after all these non-commissionable plans came out. And that's why I brought my team here, my top producers, because I need to reinvest in them to make sure that they can feed their families next year if the non-commission nonsense keeps going.
Yep.
And we've taught the cross-selling and stuff. I just need them to hear it from somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just reinforce it, right? But I'm not. You can't have an ego. Like when someone says, "Oh, well, you can only be the love of somebody's life." I don't believe that. Like I think we all learn from different people.
For sure.
And we hear it sometimes we hear it at a different time in our life.
Yeah.
You know. So I removed my ego from this. You know, because a lot of people are like, "Why are you bringing your agents to Chase?" I'm like, why wouldn't I bring my agents to Chase? Why would I love Coach Burt? I paid $3,000 to see Coach Burt 2 years ago at his cabin.
Yeah.
Like
that's a cool spot too.
Yeah.
The lodge. Yeah.
I was like, I love Coach Burt. I was like, I want my people to be coached by others that I respect, right?
I appreciate that.
So the island. So I go to a lot of these conferences. I go to a lot of these conferences, and a lot of the agents, they get ramped up for a couple of days and go home, and they don't implement it, right? Well, I was like, what if we could do smaller destination masterminds and a group cruise? And so I created a fourth company, Agent Adventures.
So this has already been created.
It already been created. No, I created it like right after I moved to Texas, so I haven't gotten it at the mud yet, okay? Agent Adventures, Destinations for the Driven.
Yeah.
So that dream is that the island would be a functioning business. Yeah. Like you can come and do a mastermind with me.
That's what this. I mean, this in the lodge. I mean, it's all the same concept.
Yeah.
So you would own the island.
Yeah.
You would own the island, but monetize it by having agents come out there and mastermind and learn.
We go deep sea fishing, scuba diving, snorkeling, wave running.
Love it. I mean, that's that. Like you said, we started this thing with experiences. Yeah. Like that's how you learn, grow, and I believe in this wholeheartedly. Collaboration leads to innovation. And it's people. It's always going to be people. People come to me all the time and say, Chase, how do I do this? How do I do that? You should be asking who. If you replace how with who every single time, you're gonna be in such a better position.
I love that.
Every single time, instead of how, who. It's always going to fix it. So I love your idea though, because my wife thinks I'm nuts. Like I wanted to build the lodge. I got an 8-acre property. I'm like, I want to build the lodge next to our house. She's like, you are not going to have random people come to our house all the time.
Well, so I learned. So I love Houston. I don't want to stay in Houston during the winter though. It got cold this year. Yeah. So I want to be in the tropical things.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, especially because I still have had this injury for 18 years now. It's not
Yeah.
going to get better.
Yeah.
So I want to winter in like Belize or Panama.
Well, probably the heat probably is better for you too,
Yeah,
I would assume.
it is.
Yeah, just for your breathing and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I'll be looking for your island,
Yeah.
and I'll be on a cruise to your island one day, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
I like it.
Awesome. What so mentors, we got into it quite a little bit here. So like if you could just pinpoint to one or two mentors, who are those people that had just the biggest impact on your life? It doesn't have to be insurance, just when you think of the impact and mentorship, who was that for you?
So Joe Tritola.
Yep.
I learned a lot, not from him, but him making me go find the answer.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we take responsibility for when we feel like just point me in the direction and I can find it, you know? But Joe took me under his wing in the insurance industry and allowed me to grow up under his protection.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Joe Tritola. So somebody that nobody knows, but he's a hero in my life.
Cool.
So at my IMO, I have, I guess you would call him an account manager. I don't know what his title actually is anymore. His name is Charlie Bryan. And a lot of times I would call him, and he doesn't even work, like he's not an agent. He doesn't have a license. But a lot of times I would call him with like an issue. And he just helps me conceptualize the problem and solves the problem.
Yeah.
You know, because like a lot of times, without emotion, without feelings, he just helps me as a thought leader.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's why I like the folks I work with. You know, James and Byron and Alex. They're thought leaders. You know, they and Sam. They remove Sam Weiner. They remove the emotion, say, how can we fix it? How can we do better?
Yeah.
And that's helped me change my perception, because a lot of times as a mentor, we take things personal.
Yeah.
We take our downlines' failures personal. We take their success personal.
Oh,
when they tell us
especially the failures. You're just so
when they
involved
tell
in
us that they're blaming us for their lack of success, we take that personal. You know, I've had people blame me for them not, leaving the house, and you know, it's like, I can only give you the road. I can't drive the car for you, right? But I was taking a lot of that personally, you know, and they helped me realize that you can't really put emotion on that stuff, you know? So I'm always very grateful for those people who just pour into my life.
Yeah, that's such good though too. I mean, you're an upline or a mentor to a lot of agents, and you can't do everything. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like the emails that come in wanting every little thing. It's like sometimes it's like you got to drive the car. You've got to do some of this stuff, and that's huge there. Two last questions, two of my favorites. First one, what are you most proud of?
So it's always a story.
Yeah, it's all right.
So July 2023,
yep.
I was laying in the hospital in Atlanta, Georgia at the VA, critically ill. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't keep anything down. I was there for 3 days, and I had IVs in each arm, and I had $0 in my bank account. My previous partners...
In 2023?
Yeah. So I lost 100 of my agents a couple months before to my previous partners, uplines, and I had like 38 agents left.
Yeah.
And like out of 38, only a couple of them were actually doing anything. And I had stopped writing a lot of my book because I was mentoring everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And so I had like nothing in my bank account. Like I was barely making it, you know? And I was like, if I can get through this, I'm going to make different changes, right? And I had trained hard, like the agents that were coming over, I had trained them hard, AEP 2023. Like I remember asking my sister, this is the only time I ever asked somebody else to help me financially ever since I was 14 years old. I'd been on my own since then. I said, Melissa, my sister, I said, can you help me pay my car payment, October 2023, because I'm going to get a big check next month. I just need, float me $700 right now. Mm-hmm. She did, you know, because I co-signed a house for her before, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So she did. And then AEP, the checks start coming in. So uplines get paid during AEP. We don't have to wait until January for our checks.
Right.
We get paid November, December. And so the checks started coming in. And then last year I started seeing the growth, the momentum. And that's the thing I love about in the insurance industry. You can go from zero to hero pretty dang fast.
Yeah.
Right? and then I see the money in my bank account today, 15 months later, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the extra zeros,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, I owe the IRS some money, right? But I'm pretty damn proud of just the laser focus and getting myself back out of the mud. Because you can lose and fail fast and gain in this industry. Like, you can lose your entire company in one swoop, and that's what happened to me. You can gain pretty fast too.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about this insurance industry. It's not how pretty you are. It's not who your dad is. It's not your education. My master's did help me a little bit in the business aspect, but nothing is determined except by your work, right? Mm-hmm. And so 15 months, I think I bounced back pretty damn well.
Yeah, I'd say. Are you comfortable sharing? So you went from broke. What was your top line revenue last year? What are you comfortable
Well, I don't even know
numbers?
what my revenue is. I haven't done my taxes yet, but I know what's in my bank account.
Yeah.
And it's pretty damn good. Like, I could buy an island right now.
Okay, there you go. There's the title of the episode: From Zero to Buying an Island.
That's how I'm dating a new guy, and when I told him,
shout out, there we go.
Yeah, his name was Chris.
Oh, hey, Chris.
He's a sweetheart. Ex-military too.
Awesome.
So when I was telling him my dream of buying the island, he thought I was just like faking it,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then when I showed him what I was actually doing, he's like, he goes to work the next day. He goes, "This girl gonna buy an island?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "What? No, she's gonna buy an island."
That's awesome.
So 2027, I hope to have my own island.
Man, you speak it into existence. There it is.
Yeah.
Mark it.
Yeah.
There it is.
So,
okay. Last question here, and just whatever comes to mind. What keeps you up at night? Maybe not whatever comes to mind.
What keeps me up at night? I think the fear of failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all honest. Love it.
So I don't have anybody to help me with plan B, C, D. It's all on me. I'm single, no kids. If I fail, it's on me. If I succeed, it's on me, but I don't want to go back to, the Catskills in New York and live with my dad with the 9 o'clock curfew. Fun fact, after I got out of the Air Force and was visiting my dad, I was actually in the military still. I went home for Christmas.
Yeah.
From Germany, and my dad gave me a 9 o'clock curfew. So I don't want to go.
Some things never change.
I don't want to go back to the Catskills with a 9 o'clock curfew. It's 42, Yeah. And so my success is mine. You have to own your success and your failures, And so feel fear of failure, and that's what's motivated me to keep going. There's a lot of hard days. There's a lot of days I don't want to do it, and then I start saying, "Well, I got this far. Imagine how much farther I can be next year," because I think I'm going to triple it this year.
Yeah, incredible. Well, I'm betting on you after hearing your story. I mean, there's no doubt what direction you're headed, and really appreciate you doing this morning. It's early morning, Saturday morning. I know you got a lot of people that want to see you, a lot of things going on. So just appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I know it's worth $16 a minute, and you're not getting paid. So thank you, and thank you for bringing all your people and trusting them down here. Really hope to pour into them.
I'm really excited to see what they get out of this and what they go home and do.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see. I mean, who I am, my core as a coach, and I don't know any other way besides to go all in with people. And it's really important when people come to our events that they leave with something, no matter what, and come out of this thing really with something they can implement. So it's gonna be a great weekend. So excited you're a part of it, and thank you for stopping by. Make sure to subscribe, find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. And thank you again, Joanna.